Hey guys, ATTILEE here. So today we're going to be talking Stevenbomb, the entire week-long event with 6 brand new episodes of Steven Universe. It's been really exciting for me to talk to you guys both on the Tumblr as well as sort of following along with a lot of fans on Twitter. And so with 60 minutes of television to break down, instead of my normal episode by episode breakdowns, I thought it might be best to just sort of do my favorite moments from each episode. So I'm going to be talking about my 6 favorite moments from each of the episodes from Stevenbomb. Starting off with, we've got Rose's Scabbard, and just a really emotionally resonant episode. I know a lot of fans were reaching out to me to say that this episode made them cry. It was really powerful, and there were some elements of romance between Pearl and Rose, depending on how you read into that. But my personal favorite moment of the episode was sort of seeing how the different gems deal with their own grief with the loss of Rose. I know a person on Tumblr pointed out to me that since gems can exist for thousands and thousands of years, the idea that Rose has only been gone for 10 and yet they've spent thousands of years together must feel like she's only been gone for days, and that's just, hearing that is devastating. The specific scene I'm talking about is when Rose's portrait falls after Pearl's outburst at Steven. It's in this sort of chaotic moment that Garnet rushes in to catch Rose's portrait. Pearl leaves on a warpath, I believe, and Amethyst sort of rushes off into her room, and we're left with sort of Steven and Garnet talking out a little bit what Steven intends to do, and Garnet is very slowly returning Rose's portrait to where it belongs, and it's just sort of seeing each of their individual reactions to the grief of losing their dear friend Rose that just really hits me and just really speaks to how individual their personalities are. It was just really impactful for me. So the second episode within Stevenbomb is The Message, and with The Message we really got a lot of build-up between the conflict occurring between the home world and the gems of crystal gems. We get the message from Lapis, but really what was so impactful for me was sort of having Greg assert himself to the gems after failing the first time to reveal Lapis's message that yes, while he's maybe not a part of this team, he still wants to be of value, and he wants the gems to identify his value as an asset to them, a human that understands to an extent what they go through and wants to help them succeed in what they're really trying to achieve here on Earth. And I just really liked that because to me it sort of showed hope from the gems' reaction, particularly Garnet, to Greg's assertion of self-value, that they really do want to respect Greg to an extent, and really I think that Steven's encouragement to Greg could be a bridge between the gems and Greg in a way that maybe Rose couldn't have accomplished on her own. Alright, third episode of Steven Universe, Stevenbomb, political power, and really that's dealing a lot with sort of Steven becoming sort of a voice for the people of Beach City and sort of really representing that human element that's inside him. Really, really funny episode actually, which was sort of great because for such a heavy week we sort of needed a bit of levity at some points. But really my favorite part of this is more of a serious note, is Steven's speech on top of Mayor Dewey's truck. It's sort of Steven, I don't know if you could say, it's like him coming to terms with the fact that the gems have purposefully kept things from him and sort of showing the audience that he's been aware that they've kept stuff from him. I mean, kids are smarter than a lot of people realize, I think. And so him sort of realizing that there's a purpose for why they keep things from him, but at the same time, it's also important to realize that you can't always shelter a person, and just, it really shows that Steven's wise beyond his years sometimes. So on Thursday, we got two-parter, the first episode being The Return. The Return, as the title alludes, is the return of homeworld gems to Earth outside of the crystal gems. Really action-packed, really tension-building. I mean, I know I was like lying face down in a pillow freaking out because I was like, I don't know what to do with myself right now. This is terrifying, what's going on. And so from that sort of really anxious, high anxiety sort of feeling that I had, I really took solace in the scene where Steven is confronting his father and saying, I need to be there with the gems, even though, again, they're sort of doing this to protect him, sending him away and doing what they think is best. Steven ultimately knows what's best for him and knows where he wants to be in this world, and without a doubt, as much as he loves his father and wants to be with him, he wants to protect the world as his mom did and as the crystal gems continue to do so. And it was just really, in the same way that Greg asserting himself earlier in the week was powerful, Steven asserting himself and making a claim for who he wants to side with and how he wants to be active in this war and be a shield like his mom was just so fantastic. I really can't stress it enough. Also, total throwaway, Opal was in this episode and I really liked seeing her appearance. Opal's one of my favorite fusions so far, but really, I mean, all fusions are my favorite. I really like fusion. So the second episode of the two-parter was Jailbreak, and this is probably the biggest buzzworthy episode of the entire week thus far, I'd argue. Within Jailbreak, we get to see Steven sort of trying to obviously get out of jail since they've been captured by the Homeworld Gems, Jasper, Peridot, and I guess Lapis is sort of a part of the jailies, the prisoners, jailies. Lapis is part of the, we sort of get to see Steven how, because he has that organic side of him, he's immune to the walls that they're trying to keep them confined in, but also because Steven's able to break out, he's able to help Ruby and Sapphire, 2 new gems that we're introduced to, but also not that new, because we very quickly find out that Ruby and Sapphire fuse to form Garnet. It's been a long speculated theory by fans that Garnet is a fusion, and from the episode in Jailbreak, we find out that Garnet is ultimately a fusion, and it's really exciting, especially because it really gives resonance, I think, to what she said to Stevonnie back in Alone Together, that being a fusion is an experience. But really my favorite scene of this was Garnet fused back together, Ruby and Sapphire, singing her song Stronger Than You while fighting Jasper. It was sort of like a she's definitely not gonna lose kind of moment, even as Jasper really came at her heart. Just seeing the absolute joy she was experiencing at being reunited as Ruby and Sapphire was just so fantastic, and I just can't get over it. It's so great. So in the 6th episode this week, full disclosure, really focusing on sort of Steven sort of trying to wrap his head around all of these events, which is fitting considering we're all sort of having to do the same thing. But the entire episode was just really, really sweet, just sort of having to deal with sort of breaking big news to people that you love, because it can be kind of daunting to tell someone something really important, like that, I don't know, maybe your Earth is being invaded by a bunch of polymorphic sentient rocks. Like, that's kind of a big deal. My favorite moment, for full disclosure, has to be Steven's song as well. Not only is it beautifully composed with Steven's cell phone ringtone as well as the vibrating noises from his cell phone really harmonizing perfectly with the music, but you've also got him sort of just grappling with like this really adult realization of like, how much do I have to tell that's too much? Something that the Gems and his dad have been having to deal with this whole entire time. Really the entire week, to me, feels like how much is too much to reveal. It's almost like the crew themselves are sort of having to like look at this really difficult thing and sort of rationalize how much should they tell their audience about the histories of Gems and how much should they tell their audience about just a lot of stuff. And it's just, this week has been such a blast, and I'm so great that the theming and just the animation is just such a strength and such a real standout for Steven Universe. I'm really so pleased with the end of this season and moving into the start of the 2nd season here, and I'm so looking forward to continuing to do recaps like this, either short or long, depending on how much I have to say for each episode. So thank you guys so much for sticking with me through this week. If you're wanting to hear a lot more individual breakdowns of each episode, I've been answering a ton of asks on the Crystal Gems Tumblr, which is linked down in the description below. Actually, I'm really curious, what are some of your guys' favorite moments from Stevenbomb? I'd really love to hear them. Thanks so much for sticking with me, you guys. Bye-bye.